Welcome to day 2 of our walk through the life of Christ. I'm glad that we have this opportunity to do these reading plans together. I think that it gives us a chance as a community of believers, as a body of believers, to practice community in a limited way during this time of physical distancing. We're not able to get together in a physical sense and meet together. But by doing this together, we can maintain our sense of community and sharing with one another. This may even be something that we might choose to continue to do beyond this current time, and when things start to look closer to like normal. My experience with Bible reading plans has been a good experience. I find it a useful tool to focus my reading, to keep me on track, to be sure that I'm reading the full breadth of Scripture. I know if you're like me, then left to my own devices, I would gravitate toward passages that are more favorite passages. But this keeps me honest, if you will, and makes sure I'm reading passages that I might not otherwise read. For the past 4 years, I have used various Bible reading plans, and I would recommend that you not only continue on with your participation in our Bible reading plan together, but also maybe even investigate to see if there's a longer term plan that you can use in your personal and private Bible reading. I would also encourage you, as we go along and as you read along with us, that you would notice things that stand out to you, or things that you learn, that you would put those in the comments, that you would share those with the rest of us. And by doing that, then you can participate in a way that is, well, not the same, similar to what you might do in a Bible study group or in a Sunday school class or something like that. Today's reading portion is found in a very familiar passage, Luke chapter 2. And no doubt you will know this passage from your years of Christmas readings, your years and years of Charlie Brown Christmas specials, where it begins. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was the governor of Syria. And everyone went to their hometown to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth to Judea to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. And no doubt that there are many of you that could repeat various sections, maybe even large sections of this chapter without even looking, because you have repeated it so many times in Christmas programs and in your readings. But I want to take a look at just a few, 3 different things that stood out to me today as I read through this. The first one that I really noticed was that God accomplishes his plans through us and in spite of us. We see this from the very beginning, that God worked his plan through the Roman Empire. God worked his plan in all these characters. He worked in spite of them, in spite of their sinfulness, but also he worked through them and through their decision making. We see this with Mary, we see this with Joseph, and even with the shepherds and Simeon and Anna, where God is able to work through them to advance his message of salvation and to advance his work of salvation. The second thing I noticed is that God's salvation, we see here, is for all people, from the young to the old. The shepherds were often among the youngest that were sent out to do the dirty work, if you will. Whereas Simeon and Anna were obviously very old. You've got Simeon's probably educated, the shepherds maybe not so much. And Simeon proclaims for us as well, that God's plan of salvation was to reach even to the Gentiles, the religious and the unreligious. And we see this even from the birth of Christ, that God has a plan to reach the world, to reach everyone, to touch all types of people with his gospel. The third thing I see is that in Jesus, we have an example of spending time in God's house. We have an example of being about God's business and of growing in every area of our lives. We see this through the last section of this chapter, where we see that at the very end, Jesus grew in wisdom, in stature, and in favor with God and men. Please share what you noticed and what you have learned of this passage. Please share that in the comments section, and that the rest of us can enjoy that as well. Thank you.